Thank you, Chair Cantwell, and thank you for holding this hearing. I'd like to start with Mr. Kirby. Do you, I want to follow up with what Senator Cruz brought up. Do you respect your employees' religious beliefs?
Absolutely.
Do you think it's, so here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing the same thing in Florida. You've got a lot of people that work for your company many, many years, and they've been placed on unpaid leave after being granted a religious exemption to the vaccine mandate. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act prohibits employment discrimination based on religion, yet your company has placed employees who decline to receive the COVID vaccine based on their sincerely held religious beliefs on unpaid leave. So number one, if you respect their religious beliefs, how can you just put somebody out of work? On top of that, do you believe you're currently in compliance with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act?
So first, Senator, I think it's important to explain our policy, actually, which is we've offered everyone an accommodation where they can still work in an area where they're not interacting with customers and people frequently. So for we've got about 2,000 employees that have either a medical or religious exemption. The majority of those are working in positions like agent on demand, where they work virtually, on the ramp, where they're outside and don't work with other customers, and we're letting people do that. They have to test, and there's a bunch of requirements around testing. So we're doing that. The exception to that is in places where they're with other employees and they're with customers, so customer-facing roles. The biggest area are pilots and flight attendants, and we will let them take one of the other jobs. But if they want to be pilots or flight attendants, and the flip side of this equation is safety is our number one priority. We absolutely respect their religious rights, but safety is our number one priority. And if you're going to be sitting in a cockpit with someone, and not just in a cockpit, you're going to spend 4 days with that person, traveling to and from the crew bus at night and having breakfast with them and dinner with them. The safety of the employees that they work with also comes to bear and comes to mind. And so that's the reason. And we look forward to the day when the COVID pandemic is enough in the rearview mirror that everyone can return to work, vaccinated or unvaccinated. But until they can do that safely, and safely for all the employees, that's the accommodation that they have. They can't work in those customer-facing jobs like pilot or flight attendant, and that we absolutely are compliant with all the legal requirements.
So why couldn't you just make them test every day? I mean, other companies are doing this. I mean, you're not the only company doing this. It's not just the airline industry. You can buy tests pretty cheaply now.
Yeah, Senator, it's not about expense. It really is about safety. And aviation has a history of being, I would say, 2 standard deviations better on safety than any other industry. And at United, that is core to our DNA, and we just don't compromise on safety. When we had an issue with our 777s, 52 wide-body airplanes, with an engine issue, we voluntarily grounded the entire fleet. I mean, that is a massively expensive decision to make. But we did it for safety because it's the right thing to do. And that is not just our North Star, it's the only star that guides us on our vaccine policies, is about safety. And testing is good, but it's not as good as someone being vaccinated, because you have a point in time, even if you're testing every day, where you can infect someone else before you show up positive. And these are people that were with each other literally for days in a row. And because we don't compromise on safety, we've done everything we can to find opportunities for them, but those kinds of places where they have to be around other customers and each other for multiple days, we're not allowing that because of safety.
Have you ever lost your job?
I have.
And how did it feel?
I was really angry.
So all of us up here, we're fiduciary to the taxpayer. We gave your industry $54 billion, and we didn't do it for every industry. There are a lot of small businesses that didn't get a dime, and you guys did. You got a lot of money. So can each of you tell us, are we going to get a return? Are the taxpayers of this country, when you think about you guys all entered into an agreement with the U.S. Treasury, are we going to make money off this investment? Because we're a fiduciary. That's our job.
Well, I guess I'll start since I'm on the mic. I think that the country is already getting the return. The return is less a financial return of buying a stock and having it go up. The return is about what we do for the U.S. economy, what we did for humanitarian relief efforts, carrying hundreds of millions of vaccines, supporting relief efforts at the beginning of the pandemic, bringing 13,000 refugees home from Afghanistan, repatriating 18,000 Americans that got stranded overseas. The return is what we do for the economy.
Did you get paid for that? Those flights?
Some of those we did, but many of them, most of those flew, especially the repatriation flights and things, flew at losses because there weren't enough passengers. A lot of those were just commercial airline passengers, and we've lost, it's hard to add up, billions of dollars in the last year and a half doing those kinds of things. But what you did was allowed us to keep flying and keeping those airlinks alive. We weren't making money on them, but the support that we got from Congress, and thank you for it, allowed us to keep those bridges intact, and we could do it because you were helping fund it.
Ms. Parker?
Yes, Senator,